Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about how apparently Nintendo almost gave up entirely on the Mario and Luigi series. And we've learned this from the recent Ask the Developer series, this one focusing on Mario and Luigi Brothership. Parts 1 and 2 have come out, and there are some interesting details, including how Nintendo almost gave up on this series, and so that's what we're getting into today. How they almost gave up on the series, the struggles they went through to find the right art style and direction for this game. But before going forward, let me ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you're unsure, watch through this video and then consider subscribing and hitting that bell. So reading this first part here, this game was first announced during the Nintendo Direct that aired in June 2024. Since it's the first new game in the series in 9 years, I imagine a lot of people were surprised. Otani. People were more surprised than I expected, both in Japan and elsewhere. I think the biggest part of the surprise was that people didn't expect any more of these games to be released, and now the series has been brought back. Well, it has been a while since the last installment of the Mario and Luigi series was released after all. Otani, that's true. Of course, for a long time, we'd been having a number of internal discussions about a new installment in the series following Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. We needed to aim for something new that would keep up with hardware advancements while maintaining the appeal of the classic Mario and Luigi games. It wasn't easy to achieve both at the same time. We kept trying various things, but there was a time when we thought it might not be possible to make any more games in the series and considered giving up. There were a lot of discussions, and eventually we decided to reach out to Acquire. After speaking a number of times with Ohashi-san, I felt that Acquire might be able to realize our dream of making Mario and Luigi in 3D. So we agreed to start joint development. Of course, it was also important to keep that Mario and Luigi-like feeling. So we also had some former Alpha Dream staff members who were involved in development of previous titles in this series join the project. So for those who may not be aware, Alpha Dream was the initial developer for the Mario and Luigi series. For nearly 20 years, they were making these games, but Alpha Dream went bankrupt, and this is one of the reasons why it took 9 years for us to get another installment in the Mario and Luigi series. But as explained by Otani-san here, they were looking for a way to advance the series for a modern platform like the Switch, and for a little while, they weren't sure how they were going to do it. But then they entered conversations with developer Acquire where they felt that maybe they could pull this off. Which brings us to the next part of this interview that I would like to read here. I think Acquire has tended to make original games that are quite edgy, and it's a bit unconventional, like Tenchu, which was mentioned earlier. I don't think you've made many games with other company characters. Ohashi, that's right. Generally, until now, we've almost always drawn up the plan or proposal on Acquire's side and approached our partners about creating our idea together. We were coming into this game without having built up any prior experience on our side, so that was pretty challenging. As mentioned earlier, Acquire has worked on the Octopath Traveler series, which is known for its HD 2D graphical style that lies somewhere between 2D and 3D. When you brought this proposal to Acquire, Otani-san, did you also have such a visual direction in mind? Otani: there was a point where I thought an HD 2D approach like Octopath Traveler could be a possibility. However, previous Mario and Luigi games were pixel art, and the artwork on the packaging, etc. consisted of drawn illustrations. Here we can see Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story cover art, so you can get an example of those illustrations. Here Otani says, for other Mario games, the in-game visual design and the main illustration match, but because they didn't for the previous Mario and Luigi games, I thought that it might have been harder for customers to recognize what kind of game it was. I wanted to align the game and the artwork at some point. That's why my dream was to make the next one in 3D. And then Ohashi from Acquire says, I was also thinking since the planning stage that 3D would be a good approach to take if we were going to make this game. There were also several reasons why I thought 2D would be difficult. I created games using pixel art characters in the No Heroes Allowed series, and from that experience with pixel art animation, I could see how great the pixel art animation was in past Mario & Luigi games, both from a technical and stylistic perspective. I didn't think it would be easy to make something on that level or even better. So I thought, in that case, challenging ourselves to make Mario & Luigi in 3D would enable us to add lots of new and appealing elements into the game that weren't in previous ones. Essentially what's being discussed here is that there was quite a challenge in coming together with the right art style and direction for this game, but ultimately they decided that just continuing with a pixel art style wasn't the right direction, and while HD 2D would have been interesting, which is part of the reason why Acquire was approached, going in an overall 3D direction that has both the action and RPG elements that Acquire has been known for was something that ultimately was decided to be a good fit for the future of this series. But finding that right art style that would depict Mario and Luigi in the appropriate way was still a challenge, as described here. While I understand the desire to create this game in 3D, 3D visuals have long been established in Mario action games, haven't they? This could end up making the game's visuals more similar to those other Mario games. If this is the case, I imagine you needed to come up with a style that's unique to the Mario and Luigi series while still being 3D, right? Furuta. Precisely. Our challenge was to develop 3D visuals that would bring out the unique appeal of the Mario and Luigi series and differentiate it from other Mario games. I'm ashamed to say it, but we weren't conscious of that when development started, which led us to making a huge detour. And in our search for a new Mario and Luigi style, at one point we ended up trying to present an edgier, more rugged Mario instead. Laughs. Then we received feedback from Nintendo that we should aim to make the art direction identifiable by fans as belonging to the Mario and Luigi series. After that, we were able to narrow down our focus to how we could combine two things: the appeal of illustrations featuring, for example, solid outlines and bold black eyes, and the charm of pixel animations depicting the two characters moving around comically in all directions. I think that's when we finally started to develop an art style that's unique to this game. Here we can see some concept art of rugged looking Mario and Luigi. I actually kind of like this art. I think this would have been kind of a cool look to go for. This one feels a little awkward to me, but this one I kind of like. But anyways, they talk about how there were challenges here and they had to actually change the direction they were going in. This wasn't smooth sailing from the beginning. But when considering the art style they ultimately amounted to, I think it's impressive. It's arguably one of the most impressive achievements for this game. Because when looking at it, it does evoke a lot of the similar style we saw from prior Mario and Luigi games, but in 3D. It's like being 2D, but 3D at the same time. It's not HD 2D like other Acquire projects. It's something else altogether that is an actual 3D game, but the way they convey the art that we've seen illustrated before in 3D, with the black outlines, with the way the colors work on both Mario and Luigi, they did something special here. Like looking at how the blue depicts the darker parts of Luigi's green, or for Mario's red, there's something there that's unique that we've never seen quite before. And of course the animation work for Mario and Luigi is impressive. There is a comical nature there that is done so well. Now, I will have both parts linked in the description below if you want to read through it, but they talk up the challenges of coming up with the overall art style, not just for Mario and Luigi, but yes, there are facial expressions, the animations there, but then the other characters as well, like Connie. These are the Connie art designs before they amounted to this, when they decided to go for the overall electric outlet motif, and then also they talked about Snoutlet and his prior designs, and they thought it would be funny if you weren't sure if the eyebrows were the eyes, or the eyebrows, or if the eyes were the nose, or the snoutlet. So, yeah, they talk about some funny things here, but ultimately they talk about how there are a lot of challenges and how it wasn't easy. And there's this cool anecdote of how they figured out what they would do with the ship, because they had this art, it looked like a ship, so they decided to make it a ship, the starting island. But let's read this last part here, because I think it concludes the overall sentiment of this interview. Once the game's overall art direction became clear, Did that lead to smoother communication and move the development forward? Otani, well, in a sense. This series is too colorful. Although it's a game in the Mario franchise, there's so much goofiness. Also, the previous development company, Alpha Dream's colors show up strongly. Our request was like asking Acquire to replicate a delicious bowl of ramen from another restaurant without the recipe. It must have been a huge challenge for them. Furuta, we are trying to replicate that delicious ramen by eating it and guessing. We think this ingredient is in it. Laughs, everyone laugh. Otani, because it was our first time working together, it took a while to get those fundamentals down. But it was only from that point on that we finally started work on the actual game content. So, what I think is being made relatively clear here is that there were great challenges in finding the overall right artistic direction for this game. Nintendo saw that Acquire had the skill set to put together a good Mario and Luigi game, but when trying to bring back a lot of the components from prior Mario and Luigi games that were made by Alpha Dream, a team that no longer exists, while they had some members involved, it was still very challenging. They used ramen as a metaphor for how challenging it was, trying to recreate a recipe without knowing what that recipe is. It isn't easy. And so there were development challenges. But I do like the wording here by Otani in the end, because it was our first time working together, with a potential implication that there may be other times they work together, which I love to hear. Mario and Luigi Brothership maybe is not going to go down as the best Mario and Luigi game ever, but it's still a solid game that Mario and Luigi fans can enjoy. I've been playing it, I have been enjoying it, playing at a slow pace, but it's still fun, I enjoy the game. And with another go-round, especially based off this interview, I believe Nintendo and Acquire could better realize the more ideal Mario and Luigi game. But there are concerns right now regarding the series, because sales haven't been extremely strong from what we've heard so far, and recently, we've heard that Sony is expressing an interest in acquiring Kadokawa, who owns the developer Acquire. And if that happens, will Nintendo and Acquire still be able to work together? We are unsure. So, in a way, the future of the Mario and Luigi series is still up for debate. But I wouldn't doom and gloom, because we don't know exactly how the situation is going to go. And at least based off this interview, it does seem like they sorted something out here, and they would like to continue to work together in the future. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.